Imagine being utterly broke, with no home, no bed, no food, just the cold streets and unbearable pangs of hunger. Then, one day, everything changes with a single ticket.
More than 2,300 new millionaires have been created.
These homeless people took a chance on the lottery and won big.
And could this woman be America's new billionaire?
From sleeping outside to owning million-dollar mansions, their lives turned upside down overnight. But did winning really fix everything? Or did they blow all their money on lavish stuff and end up bankrupt? Denise Rossy. Denise's case is a one-in-a-million tale of how greed can make you destroy your own life. Her story is a warning to everyone who could potentially win big while married. Denise Rossy won the £1.3 million lottery jackpot and then decided to divorce her husband of 25 years less than 2 weeks later. Talk about a wake-up call. The woman from California, USA, was overjoyed to earn the financial award. But she decided to do something stupid and criminal. She decided to withhold the news of her major win from her partner. When her ex-husband Thomas found her lottery victory years after their divorce in 1996, after obtaining a letter from a company that paid out lottery winners, he decided to pursue it further. As he had found the letter, which went on to describe information about the winnings and shared how the company had helped hundreds of lottery winners like you around the country receive a lump sum payment for the present value of their future annual lottery payments, he knew he had grounds to contest the money and his right to a slice of the proverbial pie. He brought the case to court, and the hearings revealed that Denise had mailed the original wins check to her mother's residence, keeping it away from Thomas. She was asked why she filed for divorce so soon after winning the huge prize, and she confessed that it was a handy way out of the marriage, having looked for one for several years. Thomas told People magazine that he was bewildered and blindsided by the encounter, saying, "She wanted me to leave the house very quickly. This was not typical of her behavior." The judge eventually ordered Denise to pay her 65-year-old ex-husband 20 annual installments of £52,600 apiece, which amounted to the total value of her winnings. Connolly Euler, Denise's lawyer, stated that she may have been able to keep the winnings if she was honest about them. He explained, "I could have argued successfully that it was her separate property, or we could have argued and we would have reached some adjustment, but the judge got mad and gave it all to him." Oan Bell. Oan Bell never thought she would win anything big. She was just a mature student, trying her best to get by. Rent had gone up, and she and her partner, Didine, had no choice but to move out from their flat in Barking, East London, after their landlord raised the rent. They had been staying on friends' couches, hoping to find a place of their own again. Then, one day, she bought a ticket for a special house lottery, the Omaze £1 million house draw. It cost just £10. She didn't expect much. But then the unbelievable happened. She won. Not just a little prize, but a huge one. A grand 4-story Georgian house in London worth £5 million. It was in one of the fanciest parts of the city, with beautiful rooms, a stylish kitchen, and even a lovely garden. People around her could hardly believe it. Oan and Didine moved in, stepping into a life they never imagined. She talked about how wonderful it felt to wake up in such a fancy house, how nice the neighbors were, and how safe they felt. With the £100,000 extra prize money, they were finally free from worrying about bills, rent, and groceries. If they wanted, they could have stayed there for at least 5 years without any problems. But even though the house was amazing, something didn't feel right. It wasn't close to their friends and family, the people who had helped them during hard times. And as beautiful as it was, a big house also meant big responsibilities. After thinking it over, they made a decision. They would sell the house and use the money to build a better future. Oan had a dream of becoming a pediatric nurse, and this money could help her reach it. Winning the house changed Oan's life, but not in the way people expected. Instead of holding on to luxury, she saw it as a chance to make her dreams come true. She planned to find a smaller home near her loved ones, where she could feel more at home. Timothy Schultz. Timothy Schultz was just 21 years old when his life completely changed. He worked at a gas station, ringing up customers and cleaning up spills. It was a regular day in 1999 when he decided to buy a Powerball ticket while on his shift. He sold the ticket to himself for just $1. The next thing he knew, his numbers matched. Every single one. Timothy had just won $29 million. His heart raced. His hands shook. He couldn't believe it. He was just over the legal age to buy a lottery ticket, and now he was a millionaire. But before he could even celebrate, trouble came knocking. One of his co-workers, a 20-year-old named Sarah Elder, stepped forward with a claim. She said she had pitched in 50 cents for the ticket, which meant she deserved part of the money. But there was a problem. Sarah wasn't old enough to buy a lottery ticket. The officials weren't sure what to do. Was her money a gift? A loan? Or did her involvement mean the whole prize would be taken away? The case was so messy that it was set to go to court. If the officials decided Sarah had truly helped buy the ticket, Timothy could lose his millions. For days, Timothy's big win felt more like a nightmare. He was about to go from the luckiest guy in town to someone who almost had it all before losing everything. But then, just one day before the court hearing, Sarah backed out. She dropped her claim. Just like that, the money was his. Years later, Timothy talked about how winning the lottery changed his life. He warned that most people don't know what to do with that kind of money. It could bring happiness, sure, but it didn't fix everything. He learned that fast. Schultz currently produces a podcast and a YouTube channel where he discusses winning tips and strategies. He claims that one of the most common blunders made by lottery winners is failing to obtain financial advice. The average lottery winner that comes across millions of dollars, the average person does not know what to do with that kind of money unless you have an education or a background or experience dealing with that kind of money. Michael Carroll. Michael Carroll is an Englishman who won the UK National Lottery in 2002. Carroll, he claimed to be dyslexic and was barely literate by the time he completed secondary school. When he won the lottery at the age of 19, he worked part-time as a waste collector. Carroll did not have a bank account at the time of his huge victory, so he sought to get one at Coutts, but the bank denied his application, which Carroll subsequently attributed to his substantial criminal record. Carroll won a little over £9.7 million in the National Lottery in November. For a period, he was dubbed the Lotto Lout and the self-proclaimed King of Chavs by the British tabloid press. When he collected his winning ticket, Carroll was still wearing an electronic tag and working as a bin man. However, his addiction issues caused him to spend his riches on alcohol, brothers, sex parties, and fancy automobiles, leaving him bankrupt in 2013. He boasted of having slept with over 4,000 women, offering to pay for orgies, and allegedly stated that he began each day with 3 lines of Charlie and half a bottle of vodka, according to the Daily Star. Carroll was well known for his lavish spending on sex parties, which cost him around £50,000 apiece. During the at-home festivals, he would direct naked ladies to carry drugs on trays and spend the night sleeping 8 women at once. He referred to these gatherings as Roman-style orgies, and he would spend up to £2,000 per day on his drug habit, claiming he started sniffing the world away. Carroll's health deteriorated during the spending spree, and he subsequently referred to himself as a full-blown alcoholic due to his habit of drinking vodka in the morning. Despite his issues, Carroll stated that it was the best 10 years of my life for a pound. After his wife abandoned him, the former millionaire squandered all of his gains and ended up homeless, destitute, and divorced. After his dubious spending caught up with him, Carroll worked in a biscuit factory and a slaughterhouse before returning to his old job. He is now reportedly living a quiet life and told The Sun, "The dealer who introduced me to crack has more of my lotto money than I do, but I don't regret any of it. I live a good free lifestyle now and I'm happier because I've got my life back. I'm a skint lottery winner." He also said, "I reckon I'm lucky to be alive. If I still had the money, I'd be 6 feet under." Jerry Hicks. Jerry Hicks never expected that picking up a $20 bill would transform his entire life, but that's exactly what happened. He was just walking through a parking lot when he spotted the money on the ground. Most people might have used it for gas or lunch, but Jerry had a different idea. He walked into a store, ready to buy a lottery ticket. The funny thing was, the ticket he originally wanted wasn't there. So, he picked a different one, just by chance. And guess what? That ticket was worth $1 million. Jerry, a hardworking carpenter from Banner Elk, had been working as a carpenter for 56 years. He figured it was about time to take a break. Winning all that money meant he could finally retire and spend more time with his family. He wasn't planning to spend it all at once, though. But first, he and his loved ones were heading straight to Golden Corral to celebrate because, as he put it, they were going to eat everything they've got. When he arrived at the lottery office, he chose the big payout, $600,000 before taxes. After everything was taken out, he walked away with almost $430,000. It wasn't quite $1 million, but it was more than enough to change his life forever. John Guinness. Back in 1997, John Mcguinnis won the enormous national lottery jackpot. He went from working as a hospital porter, living in a social home with his parents and earning £150 per week, to purchasing a £140,000 Ferrari Modena Spider, a £500,000 seaside flat in Mallorca, and a £1.3 million property in South Lanarkshire. According to the Daily Star, John also invested millions in Livingstone, the Scottish Premiership team. But his luck ran out when he invested in his favorite football team and distributed a portion of his income to his relatives and his ex-wife. Following his lottery victory, John is claimed to have paid roughly £3 million to close family members and £750,000 to his ex-wife, whom he was married to at the time. The die-hard Lions supporter apparently leveraged his unexpected windfall to guarantee the club's debts, before the club went into administration and ended up liable for all its debts. 10 years later, his money had vanished, and he was officially skint. He accused ex-business partner Dominic Keane of defrauding him of millions of dollars by enticing him to invest in Livingston. John later unsuccessfully sued the previous Celtic director. In 2009, John stated, "I know in the eyes of the law, nobody is to blame for me losing my money, but I know who I blame. I paid my money to Dominic Keane, and now it's all gone, and I have nothing. Someone must have taken it. If I had never met him, I'd still be sitting with about £5 million in the bank, and I would have been quite happy enjoying a brilliant life." Michael Engfor. Michael Engfors had been down on his luck for a long time. Living in Aspen, one of the priciest places around, wasn't easy when you had no home. But one day, something amazing happened. With just $10 in his pocket, he bought a scratch-off lottery ticket. And just like that, boom, he won $500,000. At first, Michael didn't tell anyone. He stuffed the winning ticket into his back pocket and spent the weekend at the shelter, sleeping like any other night. But soon, the news got out. People in town couldn't stop talking about it. Vince Savage, who helped run the local homeless shelter, even drove Michael to the lottery office to collect his prize. After taxes, Michael walked away with at least $300,000. Vince thought if anyone deserved this, it was Michael. He had been a builder before the recession took everything from him. He had worked odd jobs trying to stay afloat, and now luck had finally found him. But Michael didn't want fame. He wasn't interested in fancy cars or big houses. He definitely wasn't looking to invest in anything wild, like offshore drilling. He had one goal: to find his daughter. She was his only child, and he hadn't seen her in years. Now, with his winnings, he had a real chance to bring his family back together. And just like that, Michael's life changed. Not because of money, but because of hope. A Michigan miracle. A woman from Clarkston, Michigan, who was on the edge of losing her home, shared how unbelievable it felt when she saw her lottery ticket match the numbers. The 50-year-old had been struggling, especially since she had to care for her elderly mom full-time and barely had any place to live. Money was always tight, and life felt overwhelming. In 2018, she spent just $2 on a Lucky for Life ticket at a local 7-Eleven. The game's prizes ranged from small amounts like $3 to big wins, including a lifetime of fortune. That night, she woke up with a feeling she should check her ticket. To her surprise, the numbers on her ticket matched the drawn numbers: 11, 15, 32, 33, and 40. She couldn't believe it. The prize meant $25,000 every year for life. She said she had to check her phone again and again to make sure she wasn't dreaming. The timing couldn't have been better. With the struggles of taking care of her mom and facing financial troubles, this win was a blessing. She went to the Michigan lottery office and chose a one-time payment of $390,000 instead of the yearly payouts. She remembered how tough 2017 had been. She was constantly juggling caregiving and trying to make ends meet. Now, with the money, she planned to buy a car, a house, and put the rest in savings. Winning the lottery felt like a miracle and a perfect solution at just the right moment in her life. Diego B. couldn't believe his luck. A few years ago, he was living on the streets in Iowa. That is until he became a lottery winner in Colorado. He couldn't believe it, telling people it felt crazy and life-changing. When he was on his way to the bank, Diego admitted that he didn't think he deserved such good fortune. One day, while Diego was working, lottery officials came to surprise him. They told him that he had won $250,000 from a second-chance scratch ticket, and they even recorded his reaction. Diego laughed and said how strange life felt. Just a few years ago, he had no home, and now he was holding a big check. The ticket that brought him this big win was just a $10 Willy Wonka scratcher. Diego, who was 31 years old when he won the lottery, had big plans for the money. He had already bought land near Alamosa and wanted to use the prize to build on it. He also planned to donate some of the money to the National Park Service. Subscriber pick. This beggar's rags to riches story shocked the entire world a few years ago. The man who spent his days begging for pennies in the streets and slept on the dirty footpaths bought a lottery ticket one day. He had no idea this cheap lotto ticket would make him a millionaire. After cashing his prize, the beggar bought a lavish house and in a fun viral post shared pictures of himself relaxing in a bathtub full of cash. Do you think it's safe for people to advertise their sudden wealth online? Let us know in the comments. Llo Andrasek. Llo Andrasek, a man who once lived in a homeless shelter in Angur, Hungary, remembers his past with mixed feelings. He had spent 7 years living in a crowded shelter, sharing rooms with as many as 6 people, but everything changed for him after he won the lottery. He and his wife, Aniko, had been struggling to make ends meet, with debts piling up. But when Llo won a huge sum, it felt like a relief. Instead of splurging, he chose to use his newfound wealth to raise awareness about homelessness, a topic close to his heart. He and Aniko also decided to create a charitable foundation for those in need. Llo recalled the day he found out he won 636 million Hungarian forints. He had been cycling home, and when he realized he no longer had to worry about borrowing money to pay off debts, he felt free. At first, he hid the ticket, thinking that no one would ever think to look in his meditation book. He even kept it secret from his family, afraid of what might happen if others found out. But when he finally shared the news, his wife was at first confused and worried, thinking that Llo might have relapsed into his past struggles with alcohol. Once homeless and lost in his addiction, Llo had hit rock bottom at the age of 31. He had even tried to end his life, but when the rope snapped, he was left in a ditch, badly injured. Despite losing a foot in the process, it wasn't until years later, after a wake-up call, that he began to turn his life around. With the support of Aniko and his own determination, Llo eventually overcame his addiction. Now, with their wealth, the Andraseks are not focused on luxury. Instead, they have chosen to live modestly and help others. They are dedicated to helping those who, like Llo once was, have lost their dignity. Their new foundation, Stand By Me, reflects their belief that no one should have to face life's challenges alone. Cali Rogers. Cali Rogers became the youngest Lotto winner in Britain when she scooped the jackpot at the tender age of 16 years back in 2003. Just a few weeks after winning the lottery, she got into a relationship with Nick Lawson and moved into a £180,000 home with him. Nick is the father of the elder 2 of Cali's 5 children. Unfortunately, just 5 years later, they broke up. Cali was devastated by this and went down a mental spiral. Cali had won the jackpot when she was just a teenager, earning £3.50 an hour as a checkout girl at the co-op, and was living with foster parents in Cockermouth, Cumbria. Now 37, Cali has blown most of her Lotto prize money on parties, drugs, and plastic surgery. Cali declared herself bankrupt 2 years ago after dishing out £18,000 on boob jobs, £300,000 on clothes, and £500,000 on gifts to friends and family, leaving her penniless. She told ITV's This Morning that she struggled with depression while under pressure to win and attempted to harm herself. Now in her 30s, she says she is much happier with her life as a working mother of 3. Cali was assaulted by 2 women in 2018 after a night out, leaving her comatose with fractured ribs, smashed teeth, a concussion, and severe vision loss. She also received a 22-month driving ban in 2021 after crashing her car into a hedge while high on drugs, according to The Sun. However, things appear to be in perfect order right now. Cali recently stated her desire to change her life after being accepted into a nursing program at the University of Central Lancashire. Now a mother of 5, Cali recently took to Facebook and posted a photo with her youngest daughter and new partner Lee Matthews captioned, "Counting my blessings every day." Lucia Forth. Lucia Forth never thought life would turn around so fast. Just a few years ago, she didn't have a home. She had no idea what the future would bring. But then, something amazing happened. One day, she stopped at a Walmart to get her car's oil changed. While waiting, she decided to buy a lottery ticket. She didn't pick carefully. She just closed her eyes and grabbed one. At first, she thought she had won another ticket. That was exciting enough. But when she looked again, she saw the real prize, $5 million. She couldn't believe it. It didn't seem real. Just 6 years ago, she had nothing, and now she had more money than she ever imagined. It felt like a dream. Lucia's life wasn't just changing because of the money. She was also getting married. On top of that, she was studying hard to get her associate's degree. Everything was falling into place in a way she never expected. She had spent years thinking that big wins only happened to other people, but now she was proof that anything could happen. People asked her what she would do with her winnings. Lucia already had plans. First, she wanted a house so that she would never have to worry about where to sleep again. Then, she wanted to make smart choices with her money so she could have a good future. Winning the lottery wasn't just lucky for her. The California lottery helped schools too, and that made Lucia feel even better. The money people spent on tickets helped kids get a better education. One day, she was just a woman waiting for her car to be ready. The next, she was a millionaire with a bright future ahead. She proved that even when things seem hopeless, surprises can happen when you least expect them. Steve Boric. Steve Boric never thought a small decision would change his life. One day in July 2015, he spent $8 on a lottery ticket, just for fun. When he checked the numbers, he couldn't believe it. He had won. But there was one big problem. He had no fixed address and no identification, which meant he couldn't collect his prize. He was stuck. Steve had been living under a tree near the Fraser River in South Vancouver, making do with what he had. Help came when CBC got involved. They helped him with the paperwork to prove who he was. It took time, but finally, he got his birth certificate from Montreal. With that, he could get his ID, and at last, he could claim his winnings. The ID was the hardest part, Steve said, shaking his head. Being born in Canada and not being able to get ID, that just didn't feel right. Finally, the big day came. Steve walked into the BC Lottery Corporation, heart pounding. The staff checked his ticket, and then, just like that, he had a check in his hands. $25,000. His eyes widened. He couldn't stop smiling. "I feel like I just won the Oscars or something," he laughed. A few weeks before, he had been living outdoors, barely getting by. Now, everything felt different. Steve found a job with a construction company. He rented a small condo, a real place to call home. With tears in his eyes, he talked about his plans. He wasn't going to spend the money all at once. He decided to open a bank account and save it for a rainy day. Life had thrown Steve some tough challenges, but now he had a fresh start. With hard work and a little bit of luck, things were finally looking up. Dennis Mahurin. People couldn't believe it when Dennis Mahurin, a homeless man from Michigan, won a big $50,000 lottery jackpot. Most folks would have thought he'd use the money to get a house or change his life, but Dennis had a different plan. He had been living on the streets since 1978, and even after winning, he didn't want to leave his tent. Instead, he decided to help others who were just like him. Dennis had bought his winning ticket at a gas station, just like he always did. When he scratched it off and saw the prize, it must have been shocking. But instead of thinking only about himself, he thought about all the other homeless people he knew. He made up his mind that each of them was going to get $100 from his winnings. He believed in something called paying it forward, which meant he wanted to share his good luck with others. He even said he believed that God had a plan for him, and maybe this was part of it. Some people were amazed by his kindness. They said it was incredible that someone with so little would still want to give to others. Even Sandra Rankin, the lady who worked at the gas station where Dennis bought his ticket, had a lot of good things to say about him. She saw him all the time and thought he was a great guy with a good sense of humor. She even joked that maybe Dennis played the lottery so much because he was waiting to hit the really big jackpot one day. But not everyone agreed with what Dennis did. Some people thought he should have used the money to help himself first. They wondered if someone who couldn't take care of himself could really help others. but Dennis didn't seem to care what they thought. He had his own way of seeing things, and his heart was set on sharing. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.